Hello everyone and welcome back to the Jamie Hinks Fantasy Football channel. I had a couple of weeks off for the international break. Thank God that is over. That took way too long for my liking, but we're back straight into fantasy football again this week. Haven't got a review of my team from a couple of weeks ago because I just think it's quite a long time has gone. I did very well as it happens, but I think it's been a long time since those games took place. So I'm going to dive straight into my team as usual. Go through the 8 players that I've put in my lineup, why I've put them in there, and yeah, so here goes. So the first player that I've gone for is the Leicester City goalkeeper, Kasper Schmeichel. You'll notice a theme going through my team that I've gone a little bit too Leicester happy this week, but fingers crossed it works out very well for me. But Kasper Schmeichel, he's only actually $5,100 on DraftKings this week, and I think that's quite cheap because you've got the keepers at the top level, which is Courtois and De Gea, but I think that Kasper Schmeichel's got just as much opportunity to get above 10 points and score your team plenty of points. But the reason why I've got him in, 12 fantasy points per game over his last 5 games for the champions in all competitions. It's basically been since Claudio Ranieri left. He is actually one of the ones who was performing quite well actually under Ranieri. But his departures made the rest of the team play well, which is also reflected on Schmeichel, who seems to have got like a tiny bit more in him, that he's just making ridiculous saves every single week. Stoke, the team that they're playing against, have only won 1 out of their last 6 away from home. I really don't like them to even score goals that much. They haven't had a consistent striker going at it all season long. Leicester are winning every game at the moment. Basically, I expect Schmeichel to get over 10 points, so get him in your teams. So the second player in my team is a guy that I pick very often actually. I think he's the best right back in the Premier League. It's Kyle Walker of Tottenham, $5,400, 8 fantasy points per game this season. Walker's good every single week. This week isn't going to be any different. I know it's going to be tough to go to Burnley without Harry Kane up front, who of course changes their team so much, but I don't think that's going to affect Walker a hell of a lot because Burnley just love to give up chances and crosses to defenders. They've given up actually 208 crosses this season, which is the most in the league. Defenders have created 86 chances against them as well, which again, it's the most in the entire league. And if you look at Walker, he's got the most assists out of any defender. He's got 5 so far this season. Add in that he's got 2.3 tackles per game and 1.2 interceptions per game. I don't really think you can do any better than Walker this week personally. I'd steer clear of those Chelsea players just because Hazard and Costa are probably going to play but not definitely going to play, and I think Walker's got a much better chance of scoring you more points just because the assist threat is slightly higher. So my second defender is a guy that I haven't actually picked in quite a long time, but he was a bit one of my favourites from last season, Aaron Cresswell of West Ham United, 4,200. Been a little bit disappointing if I'm honest this season from a fantasy perspective, but Hull are another side that are really susceptible to attacking fullbacks. They've given up 193 crosses to defenders this season. But even more interestingly than that, you look at Hull and they've actually given up 11 goals and 6 assists to defenders this season. The reason I mention that with Cresswell is that he has scored goals in the past and he's got a wicked shot on him when he gets going. If they get fed up of Snodgrass not scoring free kicks for them, maybe they'll give some to Cresswell, maybe he'll score a goal. Who knows, it could be this week. I don't think it's the worst pick in the world, especially at 4,200. To get a fullback at that price is very, very good. Otherwise, I'd say maybe look at some centre-backs. Look at someone like Morgan or Huth. Huth scored a few goals recently. Morgan scored 1 against Seville. I think a headed goal could be on the cards for Leicester this week, and those two could be a way for you to get some cheap points and someone under the radar. But in my team, I've got Aaron Cresswell. So straight up into the midfield, and if you watch me regularly, you're probably not surprised that I've gone for Christian Eriksen at $10,200 of Tottenham Hotspur. The Danish midfielder has been in absolutely red-hot form recently. For me, he's the player that defines the word matchup proof, him and Sigurdsson out of the midfielders. I think that Eriksen's the best fantasy football midfielder out there right now. I'd have him slightly above Sigurdsson. 18 fantasy points for Denmark. He didn't have a goal or an assist in that game. It's the kind of thing he does for Tottenham quite often. 3 straight double-digit returns for Eriksen as well. He's topped 20 points in 5 of his last 7 games, and in 3 of them he's had over 30 points. What else can I really say about him? He's got 10 assists this season. Only Sigurdsson's got more. He's got 11, of course. And with Eriksen, you also get 3.7 shots per game, which is only bettered by Zlatan and Aguero. And if you watch Zlatan and Aguero, they love to shoot all the time. Eriksen's a little bit more accurate with them as well. And that's something you need to consider when you're playing on DraftKings because you get that extra point when a shot is accurate. Eriksen, 16.3 fantasy points per game. Need I say more? So alongside him, I told you I'd gone a little bit Leicester crazy this week. I've gone for Marc Albrighton, $6,100. I think he's lovely and cheap at this price. Quite a few Palace midfielders around this price who, as you know, I like to take usually, but I've decided against it this week just because we're playing Chelsea and I just don't rate our chances of winning high enough to pick any Palace players. But yeah, Albrighton, 15 fantasy points per game over his last 4 games. It's well above his average of 8.9 fantasy points per game for the whole season. Stoke at home should be easy for him to pick up another big return, I think. Plus 1 goal and 2 assists over his last 4. Loves to cross. You'll love to have him in your team, so get him in your lineup this week. So getting up into the forwards, I've gone for another Leicester player here, Riyad Mahrez, 7,200. Bit of a toss-up between him and Vardy for me. I wanted to have one of them. I've gone for Mahrez just because I think he offers a little bit more in the other areas compared to Vardy. Vardy's more of just an all-out goal scorer, whereas Mahrez is going to get you shots, crosses, assists. He's going to get you the lot. He's had a goal or an assist in each of his last 3 games in all competitions. Another little interesting stat that I saw is that Mahrez, Albrighton and Vardy have actually been involved in 7 of the 9 goals that Leicester have scored in the league since Shakespeare came and took over from Claudio Ranieri. That's as clear an indication as any that these 3 really didn't want to play for Ranieri, in my view. And I think that having Shakespeare in there is making them all just play incredibly well. Mahrez also averages 2.1 shots and 1.5 fouls drawn per game. Get him in your team, stack him with Albrighton and Schmeichel, and I think you'll get plenty of points this weekend. So alongside him up front, I had to go for one Chelsea player just because I think they win every single home game. Basically, if you look at their form, go all the way back, they actually haven't not won a home game in all competitions since that game against Liverpool, which I think stretches back to around 13 games. So you get your team out, go for Pedro. In my view, 8,400. 10.4 fantasy points per game this season, having a great season if you consider how poorly he played last year under Mourinho. But he's got 3 goals and 1 assist in his last 4 games in all competitions. 7 goals, 7 assists this season, which is up there among the Hazards, the Costas and the Fabregas. He's actually level with Fabregas on 7 assists to lead the team this season. I was very, very surprised that Fabregas had that many, to be honest, because I don't remember him getting so many assists, but that just shows you how good he is as an assist man. But yeah, the 7 goals, it's 3rd behind Costa, who has 17, and Hazard, who has 11. I think any of the Chelsea forwards this week are a good pick, and if Pedro doesn't play, just put Willian in there. He's around the same price and you'll get the same sort of return from both of them. I reckon double-digit points for whichever one you pick. So finishing off with the utility man, and I've gone for a bit of a surprise one this week. I've gone for Mark Noble of West Ham United, who's only 3,400, so he's a nice cheap player for you to put in there. Basically, the one reason I've picked him is the penalty threat that he has. Noble is questionable for this game, but I think he's going to play, which will be his 399th game for West Ham. But Hull have given up a league-high 11 penalties so far this season, and they just love to give them up. Noble takes the penalties. I think it's an easy win there where points are concerned. You get 12 points for the just for the goal from him, and you're laughing just because 3,400, I think that is value at that price if you get Noble to score a goal. Otherwise, you'd just be taking a centre-back, and I think Noble offers you a better performance. And yeah, I think West Ham, not sure that they're going to win, but I wouldn't be surprised if they score a goal. So going back through my team, I've got Kasper Schmeichel in goal of Leicester City, Kyle Walker of Tottenham partnering Aaron Cresswell in defence, Christian Eriksen in midfield alongside Marc Albrighton of Leicester City. Yes, he's back scoring points again. Riyad Mahrez up front, of course he's a midfielder alongside Pedro, another midfielder, so I haven't actually got any strikers in my team this week, but I think I need to get some points and they're not coming from the strikers. And then utility man is Mark Noble. So guys, thank you very much for watching once again. That was the Game Week 30 Premier League picks video. Please give it a thumbs up below if you liked the video. I'll try and get one up for Tuesday's games in the Premier League. Otherwise, there'll be one for next weekend. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe if you want to see even more content. And last of all, good luck this weekend.